Hello students, today we will be discussing upon Westminster Bridge, which was composed on September 3rd, 1802 or 1802 AD, and it is a Petrarchan sonnet in form written by William Wordsworth. In this poem, or through this poem, William Wordsworth is describing the city of London, or the beauty of the city of London in the early morning, and he was standing upon Westminster Bridge, which is over the River Thames, and he was with his sister Dorothy Wordsworth, and they were going somewhere in the early morning. Actually, they were, William Wordsworth and his sister Dorothy, they were traveling to Calais to visit Annette Vallon and his daughter Caroline by Annette prior to his forthcoming marriage to Mary Hutchinson. Now, this was published in 1807 AD, published in the collection Poems in 2 volumes. As I have mentioned earlier, this is a Petrarchan sonnet, and as we know, sonnet contains 14 lines, and Petrarchan form of sonnets particularly, the 14 lines are divided into 2 parts. First 8 lines, they are known as octave, and the last 6 lines, they are known as sestet. So this is a Petrarchan sonnet. It has 14 lines, and if we follow, it has a rhyme scheme of A B B A, A B B A, C D C D C D. This is the rhyme scheme of this particular poem. We'll be discussing the meaning of the poem a bit later. Before that, I will give you an view from a journal, a Grasmere journal, which was the part which I am reading now or telling you now was published on July 31st, 1802 AD, where Dorothy Wordsworth is saying that, quoting, I am quoting from her: "We left London on Saturday morning at 5:30 or 6, the 31st July, I have forgot which. We mounted the Dover coach at Charing Cross. It was a beautiful morning. The city, St. Paul's, with the river and a multitude of little boats, made a most beautiful sight as we crossed Westminster Bridge. The houses were not overhung by their cloud of smoke, and they were spread out endlessly, yet the sun shone so brightly with such a pure light that there were even something like the purity of one of nature's own grand spectacles." As we all know that William Wordsworth, who is considered as the pioneer of Romanticism in English literature, he was a eminent and father of Romantic poetry in English literature. So this poem also is a romantic poetry in nature. We will be discussing these elements of this poem a bit later. Now I will read out the poem first, and I will try to explain the meaning of the poem thoroughly. Earth has not anything to show more fair. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by a sight so touching in its majesty. The city now doth like a garment wear the beauty of the morning, silent, bare. Ships, towers, domes, theatres, and temples lie open unto the fields and to the sky, all bright and glittering in the smokeless air. Never did sun more beautifully steep in his first splendor, valley, rock, or hill, ne'er saw I, never felt a calm so deep. The river glideth at his own sweet will, dear God. The very houses seem asleep, and all that mighty herd is lying still. So, we are now discussing or explaining, I am now explaining the meaning of the poem of Upon the Westminster Bridge by William Wordsworth. Earth has not anything to show more fair. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by. A sight so touching in its majesty, the city now doth like a garment wear. The beauty of the morning, silent, bare, ships, towers, domes, theatres, and temples lie open unto the fields and to the sky, all bright and glittering into the smokeless air. As you can understand, these are the first 8 lines, which I have already mentioned is can be or known in Petrarchan form of sonnet as the octave. Now, if we have to explain or we have to understand the poem line by line, earth has nothing, earth has not anything, or earth has nothing to show more fair. There is nothing more fair than what is in display or what the poet is able to view now when he is standing upon the Westminster Bridge in the early morning. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by, a sight so touching in its majesty. He is referring to those people who will be passing without noticing this beautiful scene, the beauty of nature, which is unparalleled, which cannot be compared to anything with anything in its beauty. Those kind of people who will passing by without noticing it and being amused, being astonished, as the poet is awestruck with the beauty of the city, London city, in this early morning. A sight so touching in its majesty. The scene which is displayed in front of the poet, it is a sight which is beautiful and majestic. It's majestic means it can be considered as royal in its view. There is nothing which can be compared to this beauty. The city now doth like a garment wear, the beauty of the morning. A beautiful line, as you can see. The city is now the city is personified with a person who is wearing a beautiful gown, a beautiful dress, and that dress is made of the beauty of the morning. The city now doth like a garment wear the beauty of the morning. The beauty of the morning here is compared with a dress which is owned by the city, and silent bare ships, silent and bare. Here the morning is very silent. Actually, it's very early morning. The trifles of life, the rush of life is not yet started, has not yet started. The city, every house is sleeping, everything in the city is white and bare. Actually the morning is very clean. There is no smoke in the air, as the factories has not started yet. The morning is tranquil and beautiful, and it's clear, and the poet can see, and the beauty of the morning can be visible to the poet thoroughly. He can see everything very clearly, which will be lost after some time when the city or the factories will be started. There will be smoke in the air, so it's bare. It means it's tranquil, it's clear and silent, as the city is still sleeping, not yet. It has not started its everyday shuffle. Ships, towers, domes, theatres, and temples lie open unto the fields and to the sky. You see, there is a comparison. Ships, towers, domes, theatres, and temples, these are man made wonders. As I have already mentioned earlier, this is romantic poetry, but we have to also keep that in mind that industrialization has already started in Europe in that part of time, and that's why nature has come various time repeatedly in the poems and short stories and essays of the authors of that period, because nature was very much in the purity of nature was almost lost as the industrialization was holding his grasp very tight. So the things the poet is mentioning here, the ships, towers, domes, theatres, and temples, which is considered as the monuments of human civilization, they are maybe they are magnificent, maybe they are big, maybe they are large, maybe they can be considered as the monument or document of human progression of civilization. Still, the open fields and the simplicity of sky, which is the fields and the sky, which is on the face of the earth, which is lying for decades, they are still more beautiful, more splendid than the human made wonders, all bright and glittering in the smokeless air. Everything is bright and glittering. Glittering means everything is clear. They are just like glittering like the stars, because it's the smokeless air, the air is clear, it is tranquil, everything is visible very clearly. Never did the sun more beautifully steep in his first splendor, valley, rock, or hill. The poet says that it's an everyday thing that the sun rises and it sets, but today the sun has something more to offer. It's more beautiful than other days. It has the sun rises every day, but today it is more beautiful, and its first splendor. The first splendor refers to the first light of the sun, which is very soft. Still, it gives you a feeling of warmth, the feeling of life. And valley, rock, and hill, everything which is visible from that bridge, the valleys, the rocks, and the hills, everything, they are looking beautiful, splendid in this early morning, the first light of the sun. Ne'er saw I, never felt a calm so deep. Here, if you notice that there is an apostrophe in the spelling, N-E apostrophe then E-R, it's the word never written as near, so the pronunciation should be near saw I, never felt a calm so deep. The poet is amused, he is awestruck, he is astonished, and he is pleased. He has a feeling of serene pleasance. The emotion he is describing here, that he is loving this situation, loving this state of his mind, and the calm, the quiet atmosphere. It's so deep that poet has never felt anything like this before. The river glided at his own sweet will, and the river Thames, which I have already mentioned, the Westminster Bridge is upon the over the river Thames, and it is glided at his own sweet will. The it's a very astonishing thing. One may ask why the river always um, flows like it's in its own will, but as I have mentioned earlier that the poet is mentioning here the early morning state of the London city, and this is a period of industrialization. So the river is full with ships and boats, and they are lying still. That's why the river is able, according to the poet, the flow, the speed, the rhyme, the rhythm of the river is not interrupted by any of one of these. So the river is flowing in at his own will. Dear God, the very houses seem asleep, and all the houses, everyone is sleeping because it's very early morning. No one has woke up yet, so everyone is sleeping. The very houses seem sleeping, asleep is also another personification. And all that mighty heart is lying still. All that mighty heart. Here the mighty heart refers to the heart of the London, the heart of the city, and the vitality of the city. The jostle, the hustle of everyday work hasn't started yet. So everything is serene, everything is calm, everything is quiet. And in this calmness, in this quiet hour, the nature is also displaying its perfect beauty, a beauty which is unparalleled to any of the greatest wonder achieved by humankind. Nature is unparalleled here, and the poet is describing the beauty of the early the beauty of the London city in the early morning, standing on the Westminster Bridge, which is over the River Thames. That's the meaning of the whole poem. So, as we have already discussed or described, I have described the meaning of the whole poem, and there is a revision I would like to give you again, that the poem is a Petrarchan sonnet. Petrarchan sonnet was this is a form which was originated or started by Petrarch, and he started this particular form of sonnet, which was very much in practice by the English poets, and this 14 line and other poets of other languages as well. The other literature language of other literature of different languages, literature of different languages. The poets have already also used this form of sonnet, and also I have told you that sonnet consists 14 lines, and Petrarchan sonnet specially, the speciality of Petrarchan sonnet or the identity of Petrarchan sonnet lies in the division of these 14 lines into two parts. The first 8 lines, which is known as octave, and this last 6 lines, which is known as sister. In this particular poem, the first 8 lines, from earth has not anything to do, anything to show more fair, to all bright and glittering in the smokeless air. These first 8 lines can be considered as should be considered as octave, and the last 6 lines, never did sun, from never did sun to and all that mighty heart, last 6 lines will be considered as the sestet in the last part. And the rhyme scheme of the poem is ABBA, ABBA, CD, 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 and this is a romantic poem. As we all know, William Wordsworth, the pioneer of romanticism in English literature, these and other various among the various features or traits of romantic poetry, we all know the core feature of romantic poetry is the celebration of nature, celebration of simplicity of nature, inevitability of nature. And in this poem, as we can see, there is a clear distinction, clear comparison between the human achievements, human made things, and the simplicity of nature, the fields, the skies, the river, the early morning beauty, the sun, everything that are there for centuries, but and mankind has made so many achievements. The civilization, the progression of civilization, through so many achievements, we have achieved our progression in civilization. Still, the beauty of nature is unparalleled, and it cannot be created by any humankind. There is the artificiality of human made things is nowhere near to the reality of the nature, the real beauty of the nature. This is the core meaning of this particular poem, Upon the Westminster Bridge. I think you have understood the meaning of the poem. Still, if you have anything, you can comment in the comment box, and please subscribe to my channel. More videos based on different poems are will be uploaded very soon from different poets. Different poems will be uploaded, and they will be described, and I will try my best to describe every possible things that is necessary for the basic understanding of the poems. So please subscribe and share, and hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you very much.